Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Talking Yourself Off the Ledge. We have a special guest today. Today is going to be Crystal sharing her story. We're very excited. She's been a longtime friend, and I'm excited to hear her story. I know Yvette knows a lot of it. I don't, so I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, and I just want to add that Crystal's actually our first sponsor for this podcast. You were one of the first people that I, told about the idea, and right off the bat, you were like super supportive and just kind of like, how can I help? And I mean, we're using the laptop that you sent us right now. So, we really appreciate like the support and love and like the fact that you believe in what we're doing. And yeah, I can't wait to hear your story.
Awesome. Can't wait to share. Podcast has been great so far. I watched every episode. Excited to share. So I guess, hi, my name is Crystal. A little bit background about myself, where I am now. So I am 28, going on 29. Grew up in Sonia, Connecticut, with Yvette. We met about fifth grade.
Yeah.
Been going strong since then. I guess where I am now in life, I work at Google as a project manager and a network engineer. I've been at Google for a year. Before that, I was at Cisco Systems, kind of doing same thing. So where I am now from where I went to college at UB. And I just kind of went for computer engineering and set some goals where I want to be. I always know I want to live in California. That's like where Silicon Valley and all the engineers are. So for me, just getting to where I am now, I am a person who likes a checklist, setting goals, and just going from there. So I guess a little bit how I got here. So growing up in Sonia, I guess I wouldn't say there's not much to do, but you kind of have your things that you do. You grow up, you go to school, and mainly a lot of people in the Valley either kind of go to school for nursing, teaching, those similar things. But growing up, I went to a community center camp, and I was always in the computer labs, trying to see how things work, figure everything out. And from there, my passion just grew. So I grew up in a not so nice neighborhood in Sonia. And like that community center was basically like everything. So when things were going bad or when things weren't right, I kind of just, went to the center, worked on schoolwork, worked on computers, did whatever I can do to just stay focused and keep my mind from things going around in your environment.
How old were you when you went to the club?
Let's see. So I basically grew up at the community center. Most people in the projects or the Ansonia, Connecticut area that lived in that area kind of went there. So probably like kindergarten, first grade, that's like an after school program. You kind of just start going there as an after school program. You're there for a couple hours to help you with your homework. There's different programs going on. There's Girl Scouts, basketball, different things to go on, the computer lab. And from there, you basically just kind of, some people did like double dutch, there's double dutch team, there's Girl Scouts, there's different things that you can do. And from there, I just basically stuck inside the computer lab. And there was my mentor, I would say there.
I was just going to ask that. Is there a specific person that kind of influenced you there?
Yeah. So his name was Ron. He was the computer lab guy, I guess we call him. And he kind of just saw how I was interested in computers, just kind of showed me the ins and outs of networking, right? So like, there's all these different computers there. How do they all work together? I was always just curious and asking a bunch of different questions. There's like, I guess a little networking room in the back. There was always a bunch of kids asking questions. So we go back there and they show us how things work. And only a few of us were actually interested after we figured out from there how it works. So he kind of just took me under his wing, started teaching me things, how to fix computers. And then from there, I'm like at home, unplugging everything, trying to like see how things work, fixing everyone's computers. And yeah.
Well, I remember you used to, people used to pay you to like make their MySpace accounts?
Yeah.
All the coding.
Little entrepreneur at a young age.
Right. I thought I was like the super coder back then, HTML. And
well, that kind of is. I mean, at that age, who your age was,
I don't remember how to
was doing that. That's super unique. And you had a passion early. You had a mentor, somebody like kind of cheering you on, teaching you. And then, yeah, and right away you put that information in use to like helping people, maybe make a little bit of money on the side. Like that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. The money definitely helped. As kids, you have like goals like, oh, I want to buy this, I want to buy that with my own money.
Right.
And then, your friends always wanting, oh, this MySpace page and my MySpace page look like this. And they're kind of my sponsors at that age.
How old were you when you were doing that?
It's had to be like middle school, maybe like 6th or 7th grade. I don't even know the age, but I definitely remember. I don't remember my age, but I definitely remember it was around like 6, like going into 7th grade, because like MySpace started getting really popular around then.
How long did you continue going to that community center?
Oh wow. Up until they closed. So they closed about 2 years before I graduated from high school. So I stopped going there like around, actually in high school. In high school, I started slowing down going there because I changed high schools, right? So when I changed high schools, it wasn't necessarily like an after school program anymore. I would only go there during the summertime to be a camp counselor.
And then did you find some kids that were like you that you were able to mentor a little bit?
I did, actually. I'm still in touch with them. So that's kind of cool.
You actually still talk to some of them?
Yeah.
Are any of them in the profession? Like something's.
Yeah, they were younger kids. So some people like just graduated with COVID, not really graduation, but some of them just graduated, and some are going to school for computer science. So awesome. Pretty cool.
Have you still talked to that guy, Ron, that was your mentor back then?
No. So after I stopped going there, we kind of like fell off, and then I went to high school, and in Derby High School, there's an IT guy that I kind of like ended up working in the IT department in high school. He kind of took me under his wing. I kind of like forced my way under his wing, actually. I was just like, oh, what do you do here? Like, I'm gonna start following you around. So yeah, each stage, just finding a new mentor or someone to, that knows that knowledge of what you want to know, to teach and be willing to teach you.
Was there any struggles? Like, did you struggle to stay focused? Were there any other, distractions for you? I mean, at high school, I can't imagine, you'd be super focused the whole time. Was there anything, going on that almost led you astray at that point?
Yeah, for sure. So in high school, I cheerleaded my whole life, but in high school, like you got varsity teams, right? Varsity JV teams. You started getting more involved in high school with like things outside of like computer, like, everyone's like, oh, nerd, like, right? So you started getting involved in other stuff. And freshman or sophomore year, I kind of got into some trouble in school, and that led to the school changes, and that was like a big change for me, actually. So just like kind of, I wouldn't say the environment at high school, but more of like my mindset changed. It was more so much of not so much about being on a cheerleading team, being popular, hanging with the right people. It was more so, okay, I'm going to new school. I don't really care. I kind of knew everyone already because the town's so small. It was more of like, let me get focused and get into a good school type of thing, because we're already, at that point, I was already kind of like transitioned into the school because they have like a over the summer type of program. You can get to start taking high school classes. So I transitioned from there, and I was just like really focused. I know in most high schools, you don't get to take like classes that are what you want to do, but they had a lot of business classes, computer classes. So I started picking all those up right away. And hoping to change those out for, instead of like, I think in Sonia, you have like homeroom, you have all those gap classes. Mm-hmm. I just started filling them in with other classes, and I was just ready to be done with school, to be honest. So
yeah, I remember when you made that transition, and yes, it was, I guess, you could say like it was like a little click. It's like sometimes like when the people that you hang around with, if they're kind of dealing with something, then you as a friend feel like you have to kind of jump in, and or maybe you feel like you're forced to kind of be there. So I remember like you weren't doing too well, and like when you made that that transition, like it was completely different, and it's like you made it worth it, by filling in all those classes, because I mean, even for me, I'll admit, like I wanted those like free classes. Like I wasn't doing anything, especially like for your last years, like those gap classes. Like, yeah, it's like I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. So you're almost like ashamed of what your hobby, because it's like, yeah, you're a nerd. It's like, it's not cool to be a
Smart.
computer IT tech as a girl in high school.
Yep.
Like that's not cool. That's a great career and that's going to get you something in life. And
it
you were
has.
motivated and you sounds like you enjoyed it and you were driven, but that like peer pressure of like the social acceptance of like, this isn't cool. I should do something that is cool, which I was big in that, like that. I made a fool of myself just trying to, you know, fit in and be cool. But the fact you actually took a chance that you had going to a new school, and rather than being like, all right, no, this is my school now, like, you know, almost taking over, you were like, no, like I need to get focused. And you got back on track and filled up. I mean, yeah, what like who in senior year fills up their empty like lab times or whatever with more classes. So you graduated, and then so your goal in high school was what you said, get into a good school.
To get into a good school and basically have someone pay for it, right?
Scholarship.
Yeah. So my mom, I had a great childhood, even with the troubles that I've been through, right? My mom is like my best friend, regardless. She's whatever I need, she had it. Whatever she had to do, she's working 2 jobs, like we all had it, right? So, but it's a point where like, you're not the only child, you don't come from the best area, like you don't have that college fund, right? So my thing was to get into school and to have someone pay for it and not have to pay back tons of loans, right? So for me, working, like 2 different jobs in school to help get that, because I started working at AutoScript, which is like a teleprompter company. They actually gave me a little grant to get into school. And I knew that going into it, like, right, like you get a certain amount of pay, but the big thing for this job is they help you get into schools, they help pay for that school. So I specifically went after that job. You go specifically after certain scholarships. And then I just honestly picked the school that was giving me the most money. I applied for different ones, but whoever gave me the most money was what I went for.
At this point, did you think like, okay, I want to be a computer programmer, or was that the goal? Like, where was the motivation coming from? Like, where did you see a long-term plan of where you wanted to be after you got out of college?
Yeah, so I knew for sure that I wanted to be working in the computer field. I didn't know if it was going to be computer engineering, computer science, like IT. Like I didn't know where. I just knew that like that was what I enjoyed, and why not get paid for what you enjoy, basically. And I knew, like looking ahead of time, like these are the most highest paid jobs, right? Like in high school, they have to look up their careers, look at the highest paid, right? And like that was on the list. So I'm like, cool. I picked this, and I found schools that were great in that right, like area for careers. There are always different names: computer science, computer engineering, IT. Like there's always different names for those. So I just picked whatever one had like top 3, top 4. And applied and hope that I got in. And then with those contacts that I made, just hoping that the recommendations were good enough and the scholarships were good enough to get paid for. So.
Was Ron one of the people that recommended you?
No. So so like after I left high school, like when I left there from high school, I really didn't keep in contact with him, but I did get the recommendation. I probably got more than I needed. So going to the school, the guidance counselor was really cool. She's the one who helped me get into like finding those online classes in high school. I think it was called Canvas at the time. I think she helped me get into those. And then her husband was the IT guy. So that's kind of like how that connection happened. She was like, oh, just follow him around for a day. And then like after that, I was just like kind of stuck, like, I'm forcing myself here. So he was a recommendation. And then the superintendent of the school. So after I got in that trouble in high school, there's kind of have like a entrance interview, right? For the small high school, just to make sure you're not too much trouble to get into the high school, even though it's a public high school. So from there, I just got really close with him. He was another mentor, and he was great. He helped me get into a strategic planning club, which is just students who help better the school, better the area. So he was a great help for that. So
you've always been like a leader in the community center. You have, I mean, the community center, now the high school that you transitioned to, because you were having issues in the last one. So I feel like it was just not necessarily you, but your surroundings. You just have to be placed in the right environment.
It blows my mind that you went from being troublemaker, kicked out of one school, to like being in a program at another school to make it better.
Yeah,
being tight with the superintendent.
Yeah, like you and the superintendent are tight, and like you're trying to better the school. You're in programs, like that's great. I find that to be amazing. Like that's super cool.
Yeah. And that's like, I think for me personally, like my thing is like, not everyone is a product of their environment, or some people believe it is, but it's more or less like your mindset. If you want to be in that environment, that's who you want to be, that's fine. But just taking the good and bad from each, right? Growing up there wasn't bad, but there wasn't always great things. And some people let that affect them. Some people take it with them through life. Me, take the good, leave the bad. And that's kind of how I figured like putting myself in these positions set you up. And I still believe that to this day. You have to place yourself where you want to be with people. Not saying like force your way places, but like people who you want to be, or like who you want to be like, or who you look up to. It's always good, in my opinion, to kind of see how they got there, why they're there, why they're still there. Just honestly seeing how and why for me is a great thing. And then placing yourself in that environment, there's no better way.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you said all along with each kind of mentor in person, it's like you asked questions, you were interested, you followed them, you listened.
Yeah.
That's how you learn. It's like these people that that knew the industry, kind of, that you were interested in the field. It's like, you asked questions, you followed them around, you listened when they told you things, you showed interest.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you work in computers, a lot of that was like in person, face to face, like communication. Whereas now I feel like so many things are so virtual and digital, it can be hard, but like that in-person relationship is so important.
Oh, for sure.
To build, even then. So then to get into like BU, Boston University, BU, right?
Oh, UB. So University. Yeah.
What is it?
University of Bridgeport.
Oh, okay.
Right there in Connecticut.
I don't know. So University of Bridgeport. But yeah, to get the recommendation, of these, you have these close connections with all these people that you were able to, take a little bit of a negative and spin it positive and build relationships with people that can then elevate you to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So what was your drive when you were in college? How did that go? Was that a transition? Were you living at home? Did you live on campus?
So that was a big thing for me too, living on campus again. Just because for me, like soon as I got in, right, like my thing, get involved, right? So I started everything.
You've always been busy. How many times have you burned out?
Never. You got to get your rest. You can't dedicate your life to everything.
Okay, we'll get to that at the end. I want to know how you turned out. That's a whole story in itself. So sorry I interrupted, but yeah, you were busy in college.
Yeah, staying busy. So it's hard to like, even though I lived right there, I feel like University of Bridgeport is like a tip in Bridgeport, where it's like the water, Bridgeport, and then in that time the corner there is UB. So even though it's so super close, I barely went home. They came to visit me. I came to visit them like a couple weekends, whatever. But you get so busy, it's just hard. It feels like you're not even in the same town anymore. So getting involved in everything, and then from there, I kind of became an orientation leader. And then from orientation, you become like a student ambassador. You show new students around. You introduce like new freshmen to different things. And from there, I met two more of my mentors, and I started working in the dean of students office, right? So that was like a big thing for me. Once I seen that, because I don't know, I think most people, you kind of go to school, you do your work, you hang out with people, and that's it. Into broaden your horizon. So once I started working in the dean of students office, you get to see so much more of the school. It's an international school. So when you're in your cliques and you don't get to see all of the school. It's a naturopathic side, there's like international side, there's engineering side. You don't get to see all that. So that helped. And then from there, I started seeing all the different things the school offered, just getting involved. And Adina, which is the dean of students there, and Denise, the assistant dean of students who I work for, they became like some really good mentors who I still talk to this day. So yeah, that was pretty great. They sent recommendations for when I started applying for jobs and everything. So awesome.
I think I remember you telling me you started working there.
Yeah. So it's pretty awesome. I again, stuck with IT. I worked in the IT department, just staying busy for me. And it's a student job, right? So you're not working all hours. You work 3 hours, 2 hours, you go to class, you do your homework at the office, or, when it's slow time in between. And the orientation leaders like beginning and end of school years and stuff. So it's like gaps in there for you to get your work done, but just staying busy helps you meet plenty of new people, make contacts,
So what was the reason you were doing that? Was it for like a job and, to build a good resume, or just to keep active, or like, what were some of the reasons? Because I feel like that's also, some
Yeah.
people do it, but not a lot in college. A lot of them are partying and don't want to do any extra time and don't want the extra work. You're like seek out extra work and more responsibilities. Why?
Still get the partying in, but so there's the drive, right? I don't know, just like staying busy. I'm more productive when I'm busy. If I'm bored, like nothing good's coming out of that. And the money. So it's like a student worker position. So you do get paid more than minimum wage. You do get paid more than working off campus somewhere else. It's local. You work here. Your classes are like all in between. And then for the dean of students office, I met them through orientation. So it wasn't like I was seeking that job out. It was more one day, my nose was always stuffy. I was outside. I started talking with Denise. She told me she's looking for someone, and how would I like to do it? So I'm like, sure. And then from there, it just kind of took off. But I started one job from another one. So you make tons of contacts in the dean of students office because it's the dean of students. So then I became like an ambassador through meeting people. But if those jobs would have been full time, I probably would have burnt out. But they're like hours, couple hours here, a couple hours there. I kind of know myself when I'm taking too much on. So that's how I don't burn out.
That's important because you're taking all these things on, but to be able to know when enough is enough, that's important.
Yeah, that happened to me like junior year. I was just like, I can do it. Still doing all these things. And then, I was double majoring. So my GPA kind of slipped a little bit, and then that doesn't help when you have scholarships. So I did it was either stay in school for free or stay in school for free and live at home, like be a commuter, or stay in school and get someone to pay for your housing, right? So then I became an RA, which is like a resident assistant of certain buildings. It's you and like 4 or 5 other people, like monitoring the students a couple days a week. But I applied for that, got the job, and that helped paid for like housing and food. Otherwise, I would have been at home commuting and burning out, and that would have been pretty bad.
Oh, and you probably wouldn't have been really seeing as many people, and just being really focused and like immersed in the school and everything.
And that definitely helps, like regardless of where you're going in life, meeting people, having contacts, and just being able to multitask, or not necessarily multitask, but being able to handle a couple different responsibilities at a time. Because probably I wouldn't have been where I am now or gotten the jobs where I am now had I not had all that stuff on my resume, right? Because everyone's in school for the same thing. Everyone basically has the same grades. It's just more about, they always ask for your activities. And what are you doing?
How do you set yourself apart from everybody else?
Exactly. Picking those up.
That's huge. And I've heard it in life and, success, like most successful people have big networks.
Yeah.
The more people, and they say like, okay, if you hang out with 5 drug addicts, you'll become the 6th. You hang out with 5 millionaires, you'll become the 6th.
Yeah.
The people you surround yourself, you will start to become, whether that's good or bad. Yeah. So that network that you've constantly created, they kept elevating you and elevating you.
Yeah. And you're also like putting yourself like in a state of mind of like more possibilities and just broadening you're
not limiting yourself.
Really.
Yeah. And not at any point you were like, all right, no, I'm good. Like I'm content here. Like, I'll just stick with this. This is enough. No, you're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to meet these people. And like, you say yes to these opportunities, which is awesome. Yeah.
Contentment is never a good place to be. You always want to make yourself uncomfortable. In my book, I heard that, and that stuck with me. If you're content and you're not uncomfortable, then you're stagnant. You're not moving anywhere.
Right.
I like that. See? Yep. I can agree with that.
Yes. All right. So what's next? So now you graduated college.
Mm-hmm.
So now you need to start looking for jobs with your degree. Obviously, I know. Well, that's tough too. I mean, there's a lot of people that have a history degree, and now all of a sudden you're working. You're a project manager for where. So you definitely wanted to stay in your field. What were you like last year in college? What company were you seeking out, or where did you see yourself?
So I knew I wanted to be in California like already before even going to school, right? So it's kind of like once you get in school, being engineering, there's different focuses, right? So we can focus on hardware, the software, and then obviously that's computer science, but there's different things. So for me, picking up business, right, as second major, I knew like project management was what I wanted to do and engineering, but project management is like the tip, right? So now I just recently now I am a program manager. Like, right, you get into different jobs and your levels change. But at the time I didn't know of program management. I didn't know of different types of engineering titles that you can get. But when you're in school and you're looking for those jobs, you think, oh, these two majors match this, or this is my major, right? When you get in those jobs, that's sometimes it's not what you do at all. Sometimes it is. So for me, I just started applying to different engineering companies. I applied to Sikorsky's because like kind of as an engineer or just anyone in IT in Connecticut, you think like IT, right? You think of Sikorsky's, like even like Boeing and like other Pratt and Whitney companies around that area. So I applied to those. And then we went to a Women of Engineering's conference because like that was another one of the things I was involved in.
I hear there's going to be another network of another person.
Yes, that was another thing too. Denise and Adina helped me get an answer. There wasn't a chapter at the school, so me and another one of the female engineers, we started a chapter at the school for women engineering because there's not many of us, right? In an international school, I'm usually always the only African American. I'm usually always the only girl in my class, which it doesn't bother me. But creating a network for all people that it does affect, it really helped. So that was another network. And from there, they kind of have different conferences going on. You meet different people, kind of build a network and see what's outside of what you're learning in school. So from there, we went to different conferences. We got to meet all these different big companies, see different people. And one of them was in LA. And we went there and I handed my resume to a couple different people. And I met a lady named Josephina, who is another mentor. I interviewed with her for like Cisco Systems. I interviewed a couple other people too from different jobs. But after I met with her, it just really like clicked. Like, this is what I want to work at. This is how not everyone was like her, but if majority of people are like her, and there was more than one person from that company there. And the interview, honestly, for me, tells you how the company is going to be, right? Some of them are cutthroat. That's why I didn't go with Google in the first round, because the interviews are really cutthroat. Cisco was too, but it was more of a laid back environment, right? So I kind of picked that company and went with them, started on negotiations. I had no clue what I was doing. I just thought, oh, a lot of money. So people back in Connecticut helped me, the mentors out there helped me. And from there, like, you apply to all these different people, you handed out your resume, so things are coming in. And I'm not really, I have a lot of insecurities about certain things, just because, again, you're the only female. Even though it didn't bother me, sometimes I just feel like,
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about, like, did you ever feel like you couldn't do it?
Yeah, like, I wouldn't say so. Being in the class and being in that environment, it didn't bother me. But always in the back of my mind, you don't show that, but you think like, wow, like these people from other countries, they're way smarter, like they're, way ahead of the game on this. So you just have to work twice as hard, and that's for anything. So that was a big thing. So for me, getting all of these, interviews, because sometimes it's really hard to get an interview. Getting all these job offers, that was like, oh, wow, like me, little old me, right? So that really helped my confidence. So from there, when they came in, I went to Cisco. I literally moved like 2 months after I graduated my whole life. I went to California and started working there. And then it was intimidating, but it wasn't ever a time when I felt like, oh my God, I need to go back to Connecticut. This is not for me, right? A lot of people ask that, like, you just up and left your whole life. Like, my family is so supportive, and like people were always coming to visit left and right. So I didn't feel like I didn't have that homesickness that most people get, because people came to visit me all the time. I was doing things.
I feel like that was your vision too.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, once I made it there, I'm like, oh, I'm here. Like, it didn't hit me.
I arrived. It wasn't like, oh my God, what did I do? It was like, I did this. Like, I arrived. Like, let's get. And it seems like every time something changes, you're like, let's get to work.
Yeah.
Where can I sign up? What can I sign up for? Who can I meet?
Exactly what I did when I came
here. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
And also having the support of your family. And I mean, throughout this whole time, you're dating someone as well.
Yeah. It's not to do with him. Yeah, so the long distance relationship was hard. But again, like, we were together throughout college, and it was like more of like a weekends and like a couple days a week that I would see him. So the move wasn't like it was hard, but it wasn't as hard as someone just breaking apart, because we already kind of have that couple days to see you type of thing. And then he was over here like every month, every other month or something visiting. And so it wasn't that hard as most people go through, because they're not seeing each other, and the time difference didn't help, right? But again, it wasn't as hard as most people who are not used to that, who see each other every day.
And you guys probably had an understanding and a goal of where you guys wanted to be. So it's, you know, the fact that you're so busy and doing all this stuff, and, you know, you kind of have to schedule a time to hang out. That's okay, because you're bettering yourself for the future. And he was doing the same thing.
Yeah. And he was finishing his master's. So it was always understood, or not understood. Wasn't like I'm just up and leaving. It was a more of like a communicated thing. And then like when I'm done, I'm gonna come out there too. And then this is where we're gonna go from there. All right. So it was never just I'm leaving, you're coming or not. It was always an understanding. And you don't want to like, you're coming or not when someone else has their goals as well, right? He's doing his master's and not just gonna come on. So but it was hard at times, but it wasn't as hard as it seems for a long distance relationship.
I feel like the harder part was probably going from years of long distance to all of a sudden being together all the time. How was that?
Yeah, so it was good. It was good. It was hard at first, just because you know, I've never lived with someone else that wasn't a roommate, right? I went straight from being at home to school to here. And even when I was in school, like my last 2 years I was an RA, so I didn't have a roommate. And my freshman year when I had a roommate, I was never in the room, right? So it's hard living with someone. So you kind of find, you know, different things you didn't know with someone. Even if you've been dating for like 8 years now, you learn different things. And then you're together all the time. And even now, where we are now, we've been married for 2 years, it's COVID. I have my side of the office, he has his side of the office, but it's still like we're together all the time. And I love it, but it does get hard at times because he's talking on a meeting. But
and you find what works. I mean, you find what works, and like, it doesn't seem like you avoid the struggle and avoid the, you know, like you take it as a, you know, motivation, as like something to accomplish.
Yeah. You got to dive in and get the communication is key. I would definitely say, just dive into it. You don't want to put things off, and just communicate along the way, or else like, you know,
no, we found that with we found that with us big time. Like the only pretty much, I'd say 9 out of 10 any arguments or fights that we've ever had was purely based off of communication. One person thinking something that the other person might have been thinking, or something they did something because of something, or it's just that clear communication pretty much solves all issues. Honest communication, because you can talk all you want. It's not just talking. It's about talking, listening, and talking honestly. You know?
Yeah,
it's so true.
So how long were you with Cisco?
I was with Cisco for about 5 years, where I found like a couple more mentors. And the first thing everyone tells you when you move to Silicon Valley, like you need to like move around to different companies a couple years, not to go to other companies. And I'm like, no, you know, I'm happy here. Because I went into the company with a couple other people that you do orientation with, and some people weren't as happy. Some people had managers who were overseas who weren't there. My manager was actually from Milford, Connecticut, so meeting him, right? He was awesome. So Joe ended up becoming my mentor. You know, and as you go through different things at Cisco or any company, you start finding your little niche, what you're really good at, what you do like, what you don't like. And network engineering, I loved it, but it was somewhere you kind of work for a little while, and then you kind of get stuck there if you don't branch out, right? So for me, I'm like, oh, well, what is that person doing? What is that person doing? I want to learn that. And as you're managing different projects, you see different aspects of the company, right? Like the umbrella and stuff, just what you're working on. So from there, I kind of figured, okay, let me try to do this. Let me try to do that. So I had many different roles there at Cisco. I've been there for 5 years. And then my fourth year there, my fourth year, we had just gotten back from vacation. I had got an email. I didn't answer. I thought it was like some spam email. Then I got a call, and it was a Google recruiter. And I'm just like, I didn't apply. Who's, you know, like so skeptical, because you get all these emails and stuff. And I'm just like, okay. And then from there, I'm like already like, wow, Google called me. So I'm just like, I didn't want to go to Google my first year out of school because like the interviews were like crazy. I'm telling you, like you're like pseudo coding on the board right behind you at the interviews, like, and it's really hard. So I'm like, no, that's not for me. So when I talked to her, she like started talking to me about, the different positions they have, what they're looking for. And I'm just like, sure, like it can't hurt. I already have a job. Let me just see. And the interviews took a long time. I kind of went to different interviews and different stages. And then like a couple months later, they're like, you want to come in? I'm like, sure. And then you have your on-site interviews and you go through all this different stuff. And I didn't think it would lead anywhere because everyone in Silicon Valley, everyone interviews for Google, basically. It's really hard to get to the last stage. So I'm like, I probably won't get through. Let's just go anyways, right? Let's see what happens. And I got through. So I was just like, what do I take it? Do I not take it? And at the time I was transitioning into another team at Cisco. So I was on a home and remote team doing more project management type of things. And then for the engineering side, I was doing program management for engineering projects. So I'm like, I just transitioned to a new team. Is it okay for me to leave? I have no clue. Not it's okay for me to leave, but like, is this like the right thing for me kind of? So I kind of reached out to those different mentors. Some were at Cisco still, some were at other companies. So I reached out to them and just was like, any advice? What do I do? And everyone's like, oh yeah, you've been there for 5 years. Like this is the time, to go explore. It can't hurt. You have a job. And I talked to everyone, even my manager, he's like, this is a great opportunity for you. We'll try to match the salary that they're giving you if you want to stay. And I'm just like, it's more for me about like a new challenge, something new learning. And even he was like, go ahead, like more power to you, and I still talk to that manager to this day, like as another mentor, because the mentors that I kind of pick up is people who I kind of have things in common with, who have goals where I want to be, but that are also realistic, that are willing to teach you, right? Some people you meet and they're just like kind of standoffish about teaching you what they know. So
I was going to ask you is, and you touched on it a little bit, like mentors, you said, are people that have common interests, common goals, and are willing to help you learn. I feel like finding a mentor is not an easy thing. Yeah. Like it's not, I know it probably seems super easy for you because you've done it. You have
like 20 by now.
You've done it your whole life. Like, but I think it became easier and easier as you got older and you did it without even trying because you started at a young age. But like somebody that's like maybe, in high school, in college, that's like trying to, find a mentor. What advice would you give somebody about how to try and find one and how to spark that relationship?
I would definitely say don't set out to be like, you're going to be my mentor because, that might not always turn out good. People's personalities are different. If you happen to have someone in mind and you already know them, that's cool. But like, as far as finding a mentor like that you don't know, just getting to know the person first, just ask some questions, seeing where they are, how they got there, if that aligns with what you want to do, or if they can give good advice also, right? Because people get there where they are by accident. And some people, focus their way and get there. But if people can give you great advice, that's like my number one thing in a mentor, right? Like it's good that they're there. But for me, like, can you relate to me? If you can't relate to me, how can you help me help myself, right? So for me, I'm not, like I said, like I have a lot of insecurities. I'm not that confident. So a mentor who is confident or the opposite of me, not that they wouldn't be a great mentor, but they can help you with certain things, but some things just don't come natural to them. Like for me, going out of my way to be in part of things is my way of becoming confident. It's my way of becoming uncomfortable. So if someone can help you and give you great advice and they're already similar to you, that's awesome. But there's different mentors for different things, right? So like there's someone who's insecure, but they're doing great in life. There's someone who's not where they want to be in life, but they're a great person, and they're doing good in general, but not what they want to be yet. Someone who's like, just because they don't have as much money or they're not where they want to be, doesn't mean that they're not a great person. That doesn't mean you can't get anything from them and you can't give them something. And for me, mentoring is not all about like getting from people. It's also about giving too, because everyone comes to different places, right? So being sometimes a younger mentor to younger people or being a younger mentor to someone who's mentoring you also, they get to see part of where you're coming from. They get to pick up different things from you too. So it's kind of about like a give and take. So don't just go out looking for someone who you just want to be like him, you want to ask questions, and that's it. Like, you don't want to see them again. So just kind of picking and choosing people based on their personalities, based on if you like the kind of advice they give you. You don't have to take it, but if it resonates with you, more or less, because people are super successful, but they give off bad vibes, or you don't resonate with them, or you just don't click. It doesn't help to be mentored by someone who you don't click with, or someone who is just like a very bad person but got to where they are by doing bad things. That's not what you want to do.
Yeah, like don't force it. Just let it kind of be organic.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's kind of interesting you said that. Like sometimes you need a cheerleader, sometimes you need a coach.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
there's different, different types of people that help you with different types of things. It doesn't have to be the same person over and over. Like, I want to be successful at this, I need to find somebody that's just successful at this. Well, no, maybe it's somebody that's not really successful at that, but they're just a really optimistic, driven person, and they can help me mentally. That's like, it'd be like a cheerleader, somebody that is going to help me cheerlead me on and give me that energy. But then there's also a coach, like somebody that's going to coach me through and tell me to get up and shut up and do it. It's just, you need all different types. That's really good.
Yeah. Something that I actually love that you said, it's like you have so many insecurities, but you do all these things because of that.
To be uncomfortable.
Yes. I mean, and that's exactly how you grow. Like you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, or in situations that you think you can't do, and then just do it because you can't. Like, one of the things that I was thinking lately, it's like one of like the worst lies we could tell ourselves is, I can't.
You're right.
Really. I mean, I was just thinking that because I started building this closet.
It's more like I don't want to. No. It's really saying I can't is just, I don't want to. It's just easier to blame it, on something else.
Saying that I can't. Mm-hmm. But I mean, some people kind of can just believe it, like they're just not capable or not knowledgeable. And like, I feel like all those things sometimes, but the fact that I can ask questions and, pick people's brains, and, like if you go up to someone and with a question, and like, you're just willing to actually like interested to know, most people will actually want to help you.
They do.
Really. I mean, it's just, I don't know, just taking the time to
showing interest and listening.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, not every,
being teachable.
Right. Being teachable. You said, I can't remember. Never mind. But no, it's the whole being uncomfortable. It's like, it reminds me of, they say like the only way to build muscle is with resistance. Mm-hmm. The only way to get stronger is with resistance. If you lift a 20-pound weight every single day and never go any heavier, you're not going to grow anymore. There's a little bit of pain, a little bit of resistance, and being uncomfortable that comes with growth. So how long have you been with Google now?
Wow. Right before COVID. So almost a little over a year now, right? So I was at Google like a month and a half before COVID happened. So I made it to the campus like once, right? Because like you work online and everything. And then you go to the campus just in California. You just go ride the bikes, you go with the free food, but never working there, right? It was awesome. So like right before COVID started, I kind of was transitioning. So I was still at Cisco, sorry, and I was kind of handing things over. And then I started at Google slowly because you have to do orientation and all that stuff before you actually jump into the work. And then a couple months ago. So now I went in as so you go in as different things. You can pick your team, but you apply for the way they hire is more of like, it's based on the title, right? Not the team. So it's not because they have a gap here. No, it's based on what you know and where you're going to help at. And then you get to pick you get to do an interview of the teams. So I got into Google and then I ended up changing, right? So I went from engineering. So now I'm process engineering now. So when I went in, but this isn't a full change. So when I went in as network engineering, program manager, but now I'm more on a program management and the process engineering side. But that transition is still happening. That's why I didn't introduce it as that so much. But so you go into Google, you're there, you stay on the same team, you can jump teams, find out where you're comfortable at. That's one good thing. So now I'm on a different, I guess, level, you can say. But I've been there at this level for a couple weeks now, maybe. And that's a new orientation. So now that I'm here, I'm probably gonna stay on the team for all. The team is pretty cool. It's a new team, so everyone, even whether they're at Google or came from somewhere else, we're all new to the team. So it's pretty cool.
So what's ahead? I'm sure you have something that you're looking at in the future. Everything that you've said, I'm sure you're not just like, I'm good here. I'm content.
Right.
I'm fine with this. Like there's
never. So for me, like again, so starting when I was at Google, they kind of now that Cisco, you kind of set like a 5-year plan. That's like a thing everyone does, like even in school, like in life, I guess. I'm more of a checklist instead of looking so far. You have long-term, short-term goals. But I always knew that like after Cisco, I was content there and happy there, but I figured I would go to different teams and stuff. So my thing was, 5 years, like go to another company, search out someone else. I didn't think it would happen before that because that wasn't on my timeline. That wasn't my plan. So now I'm kind of same thing. I'm not saying I'm not going to be at Google for a long time. Maybe you will, maybe I won't. 5, 6 maybe years. And then, branch out, see what the companies are out there. And if I'm happy and I'm still changing and I'm still learning, then I'll stay. But I don't want to become too content and not know things because technology changes so much. And if you stay in the same place, it's not much to learn. So for me, long term, maybe looking at different companies, maybe moving back to the East Coast. Don't know yet. I hate the cold. So maybe planning on having kids in a year or two, maybe. But as we know,
all those plans kind of go out the window when you have kids.
Yeah.
All that perfect planning, and this is where I'm going to go, and this is exactly, but in a good way. No, but I mean, we don't have kids, so I can't say from my experience, but from noticing other people's experience, I would say it's the majority are perfectly content with kids changing their trajectory and where they thought it was going to go.
And I will say that COVID has helped me not be such a list person, right? So you got a list, you got goals, you check them off. With COVID, like everything went boom right in your face, right? Like you don't have the list anymore. I had places where I want to go, we planned, and like a lot of that didn't happen. So I would say now that I'm more of like it's there. Hopefully we can check it off. If not, maybe it'll happen down the line. So I definitely think that God willing, that I am able to have kids. And usually people plan to have kids, they can't. Knock on wood. Right. So like planning doesn't go as well. So God willing, that's the goal. And then from there, we'll see where life takes us. But I'm trying to have a goal list or a checklist as just like a guidance, not so much a timeline.
It's a saying I like: plans are useless, planning is priceless.
Yes.
So the plans are not always going to go exactly the way you expected. That's why you kind of have to be in a constant state of planning.
Yeah. Always fun.
I gotta say though, I kind of hope that you have girls, because you are definitely a self-made woman, and like you've had a lot of mentors along the way, but it was your drive and your persistence and your willpower to like push through all the difficulties, struggles, insecurities to like still make it happen. And I think that is huge because I feel like it's uncommon, it's especially, I don't want to say, but kind of like for females in a way it is, so I think you are a great mentor, and you support a lot of other people that are trying to make it too. I mean, like I said, you right off the bat like wanted to like help us out, supported this idea, and I mean, yeah, I really appreciate you. Like,
yeah, well, I definitely thank you guys for being here, for the invite to be like top 10 for you guys, because this is definitely going to blow up. It's already blowing up. You guys are awesome. You have great video and radio voices. I heard like the first one, I'm like, what? Yeah. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm just going to, chime in and finish up too. I think it's crazy. I mean, I know the fast forward version of all that, but I never knew the mentor aspect and the seeking out difficulties and seeking out like being uncomfortable. It reminds me of David Goggins, which is
David
I know
Goggins.
you know this. Have you ever heard of him? David Goggins. He's super intense, but a lot of like your behavior to get to where you are is similar to his lifestyle and the way he thinks. He says becoming civilized is the worst thing that you can be, because you're comfortable, you're content, you're like, I'm good here. The fridge is full. I'm warm. I don't get cold anymore. I'm happy here. I'm just going to stay. I
don't have to do anything.
I'm good. That's like the most dangerous thing.
Yeah.
And that you should seek out being uncomfortable. You should seek out challenge, because that's the only thing that makes you stronger and makes you more successful. And like, that's exactly what I heard from you. And that's just such good advice, because we're in such a culture of like, pain is bad.
Yeah.
Run away from pain, run away from being uncomfortable, run away from challenges. Everybody wants to say it on social media, like challenges, but it's really a culture of like, be happy, be content, just relax, sit back. You deserve to just relax. Like, you've worked hard, you deserve time off, and you deserve to just, and I know you do take time off, and I know you enjoy yourself. You traveled the world. Like, I know you do, but you're always seeking that next thing. And that's a great motivation. Like, that's really inspiring.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely my way of relaxing, right? So you work hard, but you need a little bit of time to sit back. And as that's a hobby, like for me, vacationing or going different places in the world, for me anyways, is my way of relaxing, and then, coming back into reality.
That's actually important to mention, because somebody could probably hear this and think you don't relax. Like, somebody could probably hear this and be like, oh, she doesn't even relax. All she does is just work. That doesn't sound enjoyable, but that's not the case. No, like, you seek out these things and you work really hard. But yeah, I mean, you've traveled the world, like, you've seen all these places. You do spend time like with your husband, and you go places and you see your family, and like, you do these things. You make time for it.
Yeah.
And that is important.
And making time. Yeah, making time to make sure that you are relaxing, seeing family, because that is a thing, right? You don't want to work to get rich and work to get where you are really hard, and then look back and have nothing, like you didn't enjoy your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, this was awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for being here. I mean, I think you're fantastic, and
Thank you.
yeah, it's another episode.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.